Do you want a guy to be vulnerable?
I hate that word.
Sometimes.
Vulnerable.
I don't
I think
like
there's
that
a difference
word.
between emotional stability and emotional maturity, right? So you want someone to be emotionally stable because that means that they're able to handle their emotions in certain situations. But emotional maturity is understanding what situation you can be and should be emotional in. So there's a difference between the two. So I would want someone who's emotionally mature because they know when and how to express it if needed. But I also think it's important for someone to be emotionally stable because then they know how to control their emotions.
Okay, so you were maybe touching on this with you want a guy to be vulnerable, or?
I mean, yeah, I don't want him to be like every day crying, having a mental breakdown, but yes, be vulnerable. Yeah, I agree with that.
See, I don't think like this whole idea of men should be open with their emotions or whatever, men should be vulnerable. I actually think you say that, but it's not true. You lose attraction to a guy if he's vulnerable.
I just think we mean it in different ways. It's only gotten bad because men, like, we say that it's okay to be vulnerable, but then they just don't know how to control their emotions. That's exactly
Well, it's not even that. You just you're not attracted to weak men.
Why are you
You're not
weak?
attracted
It
to
depends
weak
how you
men.
handle your emotions.
So
No one's going to call you weak.
Let's kind of test this. I think we can maybe test this and see if this is true or not. So you said, I'm sorry, the gal with the red hair. I'm terrible with names. I didn't catch yours. What did you say your name was?
Sammy.
Okay, Tammy.
Sammy.
Sammy, sorry. So when you say emotional maturity, when it's okay, when it's not okay for men to express emotions, what situations do you think men should express emotions in?
I would say if it's a conversation between a couple talking about, relationship boundaries or, feelings within the relationship. Yeah, that is, I would want you to express your emotions about how you feel about me, or if there's a concern or something like that. But if you're just going to cry because something went wrong, that's out of your control, out of my control, then...
So it sounds like you still want a stoic frame.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I want you to tell me how you emotionally
masculine.
feel, but I don't want you to actually express the emotion behind how you feel.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
At least not in front of people.
Really? So you would prefer if your man came over to you and said, listen, what you just did made me really angry, versus going over to you and going, I am so fucking pissed. Which one would you prefer?
Yes, absolutely.
Killer Zero donated $200. I wonder if your mother and father would have been together if your fathers were as feminized as they are trying to make them today. If you know how your parents met, can you share that story, please?
So it's actually really funny that the person says that because my family dynamic was very different.
Hold on. We're in the middle of a conversation, Killa of Serial. I'll ask it later if you really want to know how
Grid One
their parents
Motorsports
met.
donated $200. I thought about crying once, then I rubbed some dirt on it, realized I was not a pussy, and drove the foo-con. If your man cries, make sure to share your Kotex with him.
So, okay, look, when it comes to this whole idea...
Yeah, so back to the expression of the emotion, which way would you prefer that he expressed that?
I would rather him come up to me and be like, hey, what you did just made me angry.
That's not really expressing the emotion. That's suppressing the emotion. Do you see the difference? Hang on. That is a suppression of the emotion, not an expression of it. If he expressed it, then he would be actually angry and show you how angry he was. That would be an expression. What you're actually talking about is a stoic expression of emotion.
What you're talking about is emotional stability. If someone has to lash out because they're angry, that's because they don't have control of their emotions. But if they're mature, they have the ability to talk about it.
So their expression of their emotion to you has to be done without the emotion.
That's what I'm saying. But you're agreeing with me, but trying to debate with me.
No, you're wrong. You're just flat out wrong. When you say emotional maturity, right, what you're actually doing is agreeing with me. When I say a stoic frame, you actually don't want men to express their emotions.
But you're also
you want them to express that they have them, but not actually express them.
But you're also only talking about the emotion of anger.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
you're not talking about any other.
Think it's the same
your
thing.
example
so
was
instance,
anger.
If your man comes to you and says, "Listen, honey, right? What you did, you embarrassed me in front of some guy, right? That really hurt my feelings, right? And I would prefer if you didn't do that in the future because that's what it did, right? As opposed to when you hurt his feelings, he started acting like he was, flustered and flabbergasted, and he was super upset and this type of thing, stuff that we would normally excuse for women. You would not excuse for him. You would expect him to express this from a stoic angle, right? And just say to you later, look, you wouldn't? You'd want him to break down and be blubbery?
If he was upset about something and he was so upset about it that it made him emotional, then so be it. If I have the ability to be emotional and cry about it, do you think I'm lying to you? Wait, what benefit do I have to lie to you?
Yeah, I don't think any women, I think that's terrible advice for men. Okay. Yeah, I think that saying to men that you would prefer that they acted, in a way where they started to break down emotionally, right? Even especially publicly, or they started to cry, or they started to kind of, in some way break that stoic frame. I think that you would not appreciate it. Any more than you would the anger portion.
That's your narrative. You asked me a question and I gave you my answer, but because my answer didn't fit your narrative, you didn't like it.
Well, your answer does. Well, actually, your answer is inconsistent because in the anger portion, you say I would prefer when he's angry not to express that. Right? Why?
I said that was the difference between emotional maturity and emotional stability.
Well, why would that not be emotional maturity when it came to sadness as well?
It could be either way.
Anger's more
You asked me which one I preferred. Obviously, I don't want someone to scream at me.
Yeah, my point is...
But if he screamed at me, then would I be upset about it? We would talk about it.
The expression from a stoic frame of emotion seems to be your preference.
If he can be stoic if he wants to be. You asked me if I preferred to be yelled at or if I preferred to be confronted. Obviously, I'm going to prefer to not be yelled at. Anybody would prefer that. But in terms of emotion and sadness, let me finish what I'm saying. In the term of sadness, if he wants to cry about it, he can cry about it and we can talk about it. If he wants to be stoic, again, that's the person, right? However they want to express their emotional maturity and emotional stability, that's fine. You asked me if I preferred to be yelled at or if I preferred to be confronted.
Well, he's not yelling at you, he's just yelling.
You're still yelling.
Or maybe he's just not even yelling, but he's just really angry when he says a thing. He just says, listen, this really pissed me off. It made me mad. That's not him yelling. He's just expressing this emotion. But it's not a comfortable emotion to express, right?
Your comparison was, that made me fucking angry, or that made me angry.
Yeah,
obviously, I'm going to prefer not to be yelled at.
But even then, let's go back to, we'll just dial it back, right? We'll dial the yelling back. He's not yelling, but he has an anger in his voice when he's talking to you because you made him angry. Wouldn't you prefer that was gone as well?
No.
And that he just stoically delivered to you that you made him angry and not to do that.
Now you're switching it up.
Preference?
You're switching it up. Your initial comparison
I'm trying to follow your line of logic. That's right.
Right, because it doesn't fit your narrative. That's okay.
What does that mean, fit my narrative? Do you know what logic is?
Yeah.
Okay, if you know what logic is, then tell me the 3 laws of it.
The original thing that Brian asked about vulnerability.
Stop. If you know what logic is, then tell me what the 3 rules of logic are. I know the general definition of
logic. I'm sorry, I don't know the...
Yeah, you don't. So here's the thing, right? Back off on the narrative building. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to walk through whether or not you actually would prefer a stoic frame on a man, ultimately, if we follow your worldview through.
You're switching after I already answered your question. You're switching up your question.
Yeah, that's how I continue to test the logic. That's right.
Okay, and I said that I had already answered based on my understanding of your question. Do I want to be yelled at? That's why I asked a new one,
so I can continue to test the logic.
Okay, so you already got my answer, though, but why are we still talking about the same exact thing? This is the one thing
it's
I
really
do think
weird.
You're a great speaker, but this is one thing that I don't appreciate about you. You dig at the same thing to get a different answer so that it fits your narrative.
Logic, yeah.
So what are the 3?
You realize that when you're testing somebody's logical consistency, it may require multiple questions, right?
Yeah, but when it doesn't follow suit with what you believe in,
then so think of it like a tree. That's a logical tree. That's what it's called. So you go down branch 1 and you go, oh, okay, now we understand where that position leads. We go down branch 2, now we know where that position leads. Branch 3, now we know where that position leads. But we're all moving the logic towards whatever the conclusion of the position is. It's not narrative building. It's just me trying to actually figure out your positions. It's not even being mean. I'm just literally trying to figure out your positions.
Right. And I said that I would just prefer someone be emotionally stable and emotionally mature and be able to talk about what they're feeling. If they want to cry about it, that's great.
Right.
If they want to scream about it, obviously I would prefer not.
Yeah, that's what we're testing by going down these different branches and questions.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a difference between you expressing that is what you want, but then based on answers to questions, it may not actually be.